Damn, that was a close one. I don't know what the hell happened. It suddenly seemed like there were killer robots out of an old pizzeria trying to kill me. I mean, why else would it smell like rotten flesh and pizza? That reminds me of something. Five Nights at Freddy's is one of those horror indie games that really blew up around 2014. This was one of the most popular games back then. Between 2014 and 2017, the series got installment after installment, each being varied from the last. They all got ports to home consoles in November of 2019, and later there would also be a physical version released, a collection of FNAF 1 to 5 called the Core Collection. Yeah, I owned this game twice. They were enhanced to work with standard controllers and also added some elements such as cheats and subtitles. All games had the same concept of survive until 6 AM and avoid killer animatronics, but they all had different gameplay elements. For now, I'll only be going over the first 7 games though. The games after the main 7 are all way different than what they produced before 2017, so we'll probably cover them another time, so we can go more in depth on them. But before we get into Five Nights at Freddy's 1, a brief history lesson to this little game right here. This game is Chipper & Sons Lumber Co., created by Scott Cawthon. He mainly made small Christian games that didn't get much attention. After he made Chippers though, the game, like his previous games, got criticized a lot, which almost made Scott quit making games. But the game got criticized a lot for Chipper's seemingly scary design. I mean, I wouldn't want to meet him in a dark alley for sure. But instead of quitting, Scott decided if the design is scary, I'll make a scary game. So only 6 months after that, on August 8th of 2014, Scott released Five Nights at Freddy's, a survival horror game set in a haunted pizzeria where the player needs to survive until 6 AM, while animatronics possessed by children brutally murdered that are trying to kill you. You can stalk the animatronics through cameras through your monitor. Weirdly enough, you can only display one camera at a time, which is kinda dumb, but it's understandable from a gameplay perspective. The animatronics have names too. There is Freddy of course, Bonnie the Bunny, Chica the Chicken, and Foxy the Pirate Fox. While Freddy, Bonnie and Chica have almost the same gameplay element of looking at the cameras to track them and stop them by closing your office door in their face, Foxy has a different mechanic. To stop Foxy, you need to look at the cameras, and if you don't do that enough and you don't see him on his stage, he is going to Usain Bolt to your office door and you have precisely 0.85 seconds to close it while you are having a panic attack. There's also a hidden animatronic named Golden Freddy, which has a really small chance to appear after lowering your monitor. Well, all of this gameplay sounds easy, right? Well, to make it harder, doing anything will decrease your power level, which you start off with 100% every night, which when empty, you die. Horribly. But after beating 5 nights, the game pulls a fast one on you in letting you believe that the torture is over. But nope, the game has a 6th night, and if you manage to beat that as well, you unlock the elusive custom night. You are able to customize the difficulty of every animatronic from 1 to 20, and it's really cool that you can do this. Although the game only has 4 customizable animatronics, it is still a really cool feature that it is even here. The game pulls off the horror element really well with disturbing music, scary voices, and of course the unsettling animatronics. It gives a sense of eeriness to it all that you'll never get used to. The game was a huge success and quickly blew up by some big YouTubers like Markiplier and Jacksepticeye, who blew up because of his FNAF gameplay, and FNAF blew up because of him. It was a huge success, and so a sequel was quickly developed. Okay, quick update. The smell has gotten worse. So there are either animatronics right outside of the closet, or someone is cooking something really bad in the kitchen. After the first game was a massive success, Scott quickly went to develop a sequel, which released barely 3 months after the first game launched. And of course, the success was quickly carried over. It was a prequel to the first game and has the same concept, survive until 6 AM and don't get caught by animatronics, only this time there are more. You have all the originals together, with the new toy versions of all the original animatronic, together with Balloon Boy, also known as the most annoying animatronic, and the marionette, which apparently is responsible for putting these children's souls in the animatronics. Yeah, this game is where the lore got really crazy. The first game wasn't all that focused on the lore, just 5 children got murdered at a pizzeria. But in this game, they introduced minigames that you randomly get after dying. These Atari-style minigames gave information about the lore, which has gotten really confusing over time, so I'll keep it simple and I won't dive too deep into the lore. As for the gameplay though, it's Five Nights at Freddy's, but this time without doors. You now get a mask to fool the animatronics into believing that you are one of them, because apparently they have face recognition in 1983. Yeah, sure. My phone sometimes doesn't even know I have a face, let alone these robots in the early 80s. But hey, it's a game, so let's just forget about it. They crawl through vents, which you have on both sides, just like doors in the first game, but now there's also a hallway in the middle, where old Foxy occasionally appears. He doesn't get tricked by your mask though, so you have to flash him with your flashlight. This is also where Balloon Boy gets into play. He'll approach you to the left side vent like all the others, but once he enters your office, instead of scaring you, he'll steal your battery so you can't use your flashlight anymore. Thus, you're unable to flash Foxy. The last new animatronic is the marionette, or the puppet, which is kind of the new Foxy in the sense of the look at the camera mechanic. This one definitely had my heart racing so many times more than Foxy ever did in FNAF 1. You could stop Foxy after he left Pirate's Cove, but once the marionette leaves the prize corner, you have around 10 seconds of your life to pray to God that it turns 6 AM soon. For the rest of the animatronics, they all basically work the same. Withered Chica, Toy Bonnie and Toy Foxy, also known as Mangle, approach from the vent to your right. Withered Bonnie, Toy Chica and Balloon Boy approach through the vent on your left. And Withered Freddy, Toy Freddy and Withered Foxy approach through the hallway. And for all of them, except for Withered Foxy, you need to put your mask on to prevent them from jump scaring you. Honestly, FNAF 2 is up there as one of my favorite FNAF games, mostly because of the custom night. Yeah, this game pulls the same joke as the first one, as there once again is a bonus 6th night and a custom night. But in this game, the custom night is so much more prevalent than in the first game. Aside from being able to customize all 10 characters, excluding the puppet, there are now also challenges. This means that there's actually more replay value than the first game. This game is where they did the custom night the best. We'll cover you later. So yeah, FNAF 2 was leaning way more into the lore, but if you want a lot of lore, just wait until we get to FNAF 3.
Hello? Buddy, I believe you have the wrong number. No, I think you have the wrong... What the hell?
FNAF 3 is unlike the previous 2 games we've just talked about, and was initially made as the last game before they spewed out 15 more games. FNAF 3, lore-wise, answered a lot of unsolved questions from the first 2 games, like who actually murdered the children that went on to possess the animatronics, and it turns out it was some purple man, and spoilers, he turned out to be the antagonist of this game. We get to know a lot of stuff lore-wise in this game. We found out he murdered these kids all the way back in 1983, and later in 1987 he dismantles the animatronics to free the souls of the children, which he got instant karma for. Instead of the souls passing on, they haunted the purple-looking man named William Afton, also known as the creator of these animatronics, and he thought it was a good idea to hide inside a Springlock suit, but unlucky for him, Springlocks are very dangerous and tend to spring whenever you move too much, and he got Springlocked and got stuck in the suit. I told you the lore of this game was a mess. Well now, instead of set in a pizzeria, it is set in a horror attraction based on the old pizzerias. There he roams around and tries to get to you on the other side of the building. You're decked out with, once again, a camera that still displays only one camera at a time and an audio lure to distract William. Or now in a suit he's called Springtrap or something, but you use the audio device to lure him away from you. But instead of the battery slowly depleting over time, in this game you have to worry about system failures. The audio system, camera system and even the ventilation system can fail at any time. To reset them, you have to slowly reboot it to be able to use them again. It sounds really easy, only having one threat to take care of, but there is where you are wrong, seeing as these spirits still haunt the building. They can appear at any time, and they will jump scare you, and this will result in an error. It is a mess of a game, but I love it for that. Although not my absolute favorite in the series, I can still appreciate what it did to the series, trying to give a new spin on things, but apparently that's not what Scott Cawthon thought. He thought that the game wasn't scary enough, and though the game definitely startled me a few times, I have to sadly agree that the jump scares aren't as good as the previous games. So Scott decided that he would make one final game after this. So let's move right into FNAF 4.
So I'm starting to get really hungry after spending 3 hours in this really cramped closet. Maybe I can get out for just a few seconds to grab something to eat, or maybe not.
FNAF 4, initially intended to be the final game, even titled The Last Chapter, it is probably my favorite game of the series. We're back to the original 4 animatronics, but this time we are set in a bedroom without cameras and only a flashlight and our ears at our disposal. This game leans heavy into sound. Like FNAF 2, you have the sides that the animatronics can come through and closet in front of you, where Foxy will be once he gets into the room, but now you also have Freddy behind you. You have to walk to each of the doors and listen closely if you hear any breathing. If you do, you have to close the door immediately. If you do not hear any breathing, you are free to use the flashlight to look down the hallway. The same basically applies to Foxy. You will try to get in your closet, and once he is inside, you just have to keep an eye on him, closing the closet every now and then. Now the most unique animatronic is Freddy. Over time, little Freddys called Freddles will appear on the bed behind you, and you have to shine your flashlight on them to make them go away. If you don't do this, eventually Freddy will appear and bite your head off. I also don't know what the hell happened here, but my game glitched out after jump scaring me and I still made it or something. I don't know what the hell happened. Sure. I just wanted to include this in the video. I really like the concept of having to listen if the animatronics are there, because it has a sense of horror every time you have to use your flashlight to watch down the hallway. The breathing is also very faint, and the first time playing the game, you don't even know what it sounds like. This makes the game a lot scarier if you play it for the first time than to say the 42nd time, like me. But even after so many times of playing the game, I still get scared whenever I come to a door. It works really well in this game. Lore-wise, the game isn't really as heavily based on lore as Five Nights at Freddy's 3. It just basically tells a story of why William made the animatronics and started murdering. It was a sort of coping mechanism for his dead son or something. I have no idea. This lore is an absolute mess. There are also these two new guys, Nightmare Fredbear and Nightmare. Yeah, this guy's just straight up called Nightmare with zero context. So let's get into FNAF 5. Whoa, not so fast. This game also got a free Halloween DLC. See, this game was originally slated for an October 31st, 2015 release date. Then it got moved forward to August 8th, 2015, the first anniversary of the franchise, and eventually it just got randomly dropped on July 23rd. The DLC wasn't much to write home about. There were some skin changes for Chica, Foxy, Nightmare, and Plushtrap. Huh? Oh yeah, Plushtrap. Yeah, there was a small minigame played after every night called Fun with Plushtrap. Well, I don't call this fun. It was a minigame where you had to flash Plushtrap at the right time, and if you did, you could skip the first 2 hours of the next night. It was a really neat addition, and with the Halloween DLC, it got renamed to Fun with Balloon Boy. I still don't call it fun. But yeah, a really solid game, and one I just didn't got myself to play back in 2015 because it was too scary to me. I was 12 at the time, okay? Cut me some slack. But okay, solid game. Wonder how they could top that.
You know, I wish I had a little more space to move around. I mean, my legs are starting to get really cramped.
Holy shit, you can move in this one! And voice acting! FNAF 5, or FNAF Sister Location, was a breath of fresh air for the franchise.
Wait, I thought FNAF 4 was the last game.
Hahaha. Nope, Scott was just milking the franchise at this point. Okay, that may sound a bit harsh, but I meant it in a good way. I mean, you can't tell me that I'm wrong. The franchise got 4 installments in the span of 1 year. Even Mario can't top that. But FNAF Sister Location was set in an underground storage facility where the animatronics were stored for rental during the day. I don't even know much lore about this one because the gameplay on this game is what really matters. Together with starting every night with a few corny jokes about like casual bongos or inputting numbers on a letter only keyboard, every night there was something else to do. In the first night you get introduced to the place, just casually showing you what you'll go up against during the span of this game. You get to see the animatronics and does so by giving you the task of electrocuting them. That's brutal, but let's just skip over that part, because the second night you do basically the same as the first night, but now your shock doesn't work. So your guiding voice says that the system must be restarted. After it turns dark, a mysterious voice, later revealed to be Circus Baby, tells you that there is a space under the desk. So after you do that and survive some babies that are trying to get in, your guide comes back online and he says he was unsuccessful and that you have to restore the power manually. So after we go back, we go through the vent on the left and he says we have to go as fast and quietly as possible. So we go slowly and silent, because that is what Baby said, and I guess we just have to trust her for that now, because the guides wants us dead. I don't really know what's going on here, but anyways, I get through successfully and we get to arguably the most nerve-wracking part of the game, rebooting the system with the presence of Freddy. The thing that makes it so nerve-wracking though is the fact that he gets closer every time you reboot the system. It's not that hard if you go through it slowly like I did, but it's really nerve-wracking. But anyways, bam, I did it, I crawled back and bam, second night complete. Now we get to the third night and this is where things are really picking up. I do the same task as before, but apparently Freddy had some defects?
Due to unforeseen malfunctions from today's shows, your nightly duties will require you to perform maintenance that you may or may not be skilled enough to perform. It became necessary for technicians to attempt to disconnect Funtime Freddy's power module. However, they were unsuccessful. Allowing them to try again would be an inefficient path forward, as we would need to allow 6 to 8 weeks for recovery and physical therapy.
So go through Funtime Auditorium, get to the power module and get back to... Ah! Okay, so that did not go as planned. So we'll just try again. Wait, that was supposed to happen? Yeah, we got kidnapped or anything, see Ballora die in front of us.
That's at least 12 weeks of therapy for me.
And wind up some spring locks, because I don't want to end up as Ballora. So bam, I did it, night 5. We go back to the same thing as we did the first 3 nights.
16 weeks.
Okay, we're just going to ignore the part. Just go back to parts and service room, retrieve Baby, and go to the scooping room.
Wait, what?
Yep, we end up as Ballora after we got catfished by the stupid bundle of wires, and bam, end game. Now that is the bad or real ending of the game. There's also a good fake ending where you go to the other side of the room and you reach the private room. This part requires you to have completed a minigame you can sometimes play after dying. It plays like any other FNAF game. Check the cameras and doing the whole not dying thing until 6 AM. Now after an update they have also added the custom night where 8 animatronics already in the game and 2 new ones that are simply recolors of existing characters are set in challenges. In this game they are not customizable like in FNAF 1 and 2, which knocks it down a few pegs, but it's not a massive deal. So after this, Scott went on to develop a 6th game and released a few teasers, but ultimately decided to cancel the game. Instead he announced he would make a FNAF spin-off in the form of a Pizzeria tycoon. So eventually Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator released, and I have to say, yep, this is definitely a Pizzeria Simulator. Whoa, 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 whoa! Oh my god, it's a FNAF 6! Yeah, Scott trolled us all into thinking that it was just a one-off, but instead it was actually FNAF 6. Now this game is pretty expansive. You have an actual Pizzeria Simulator section where you can buy and place games, accessories and animatronics. You have the FNAF type sections where you sit in a sort of vent shaft, and the last part is a salvage section. So we'll go by these one by one. So, the average day starts with the Tycoon version of this game. This makes you totally forget that this game is a FNAF game. You can place anything anywhere, and some games you place are playable and you can get points by playing. I'll tell you, I can go all day talking some Midnight Motorists. By collecting points you can get more money to buy more games, and you can play them, blah blah blah, and the loop continues. You get a total of 10 play tokens per day, which means that after playing 10 games, you gotta press this pesky button. Pressing the finish button will lead us to the second part of the game. And this feels a lot more like FNAF. You sit in a room surrounded by vents and there are animatronics crawling through these vents. You do not have a camera, but you do have a motion detector, which can be used to trace the animatronics once they move, and an audio alert to lure the animatronics away from you. There is also a silent ventilation system together with a new feature that is the heating system. See, you're decked out with a fan that keeps the temperature of the room at a steady 60 degrees Fahrenheit, but you can turn it off to reduce attraction from animatronics, but once it reaches 120 degrees, you're out, so you have to use these fans tactically. These silent fans aren't as effective as your main fan, but it still lowers risks. The bad thing though is that you can only have one of those three activated at the same time, so there's a whole bunch of strategies to try out. Your objective here isn't to survive until 6 AM however, you have to finish your tasks without getting killed. The nice thing about this is that you can take this at your own pace. I find this game to be one of my favorites, and sure, the jump scares may not be that great, it still scares my socks off every time I get killed. But once you're done with your tasks, you move on to the third and final part of the game, the salvaging. You go face to face with an animatronic in a room surrounded by darkness, with the simple task of torturing the animatronic with some annoying ass sounds. You have to do this 5 times, but you can shock the animatronics up to 3 times, if you do not trust it. So we do that, blah blah blah, get paid, boom! The cycle repeats for 5 nights, but there's no extra night. Just like with Sister Location, this game was supposed to get DLC Custom Night, similar to FNAF 1, but it would have had 50 characters, kind of celebrating the series at that point, because, say it with me now, FNAF 6 was supposed to be the last game. But eventually, the expansion got so big for Scott that he decided to straight up make it its own thing and released a few months later with the name Ultimate Custom Night. Yeah, 2018 was a heavy Ultimate focus year.
Oh my god, it's 6 AM. I can finally get up. That was my alarm for 5 AM.
Ultimate Custom Night was a really interesting concept and so incredibly replayable that I have poured almost 80 hours in this game. It is set in Purgatory. It plays like the first game in terms of mechanics with the cameras and doors, but now with characters from all over the series. From Widow Chica to Old Man Consequences to even the phone guy, there are a lot of different ways to play this game. Almost all characters have their own mechanic that either represents how they were in their own game or are just straight up something new. even Trash in the Gang and the Mediocre Melodies are here, animatronics in FNAF 6 that could only be placed in your pizzeria that wouldn't attack you. There is also a good chunk of different challenges in this one. And even if you think that 50 characters isn't enough, well, there are 6 non-customizable characters that can only be activated by this piece of shit right here. But all in all, this was a really good place to finish the series, and although it wasn't the absolute final game, with multiple games already being released, and I don't think that they'll be stopping anytime soon, this was basically the last game Scott developed on his own, basically sold the series to Steelwool. And from what we've seen so far, I mean, they're doing fine with it, but the entries are all so all over the place that if I think of FNAF, I mostly think of the first 7 games, excluding FNAF World. Wait, did we even talk about FNAF World?
Oh my god. It's 6 AM. I can finally leave.